Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live. It is Friday night, and I'm your host, Chris Dohmen. I'll say a certain thing after I introduce the second member of the show tonight, because it's a smaller show, but there's a lot of discussion to be had, I'd say. And joining me on the panel tonight, we've got the one, the only, the suave one himself, Nico Regoli. Nico, what's up, man? How have you been?
The suave Skywalkers are in the house.
Ah.
Yeah, we're in for a fun night of discussions. Again, light panel, but pretty hefty laundry list of things to talk about.
I think that's quite the understatement. But yeah. Now, normally I'd make a crack about how, normally Nico would be the one who, master of foot and mouth syndrome. But, no, this week that wasn't him. Not the slightest.
My mouth was foot cleaned this week.
I can't quite say the same. Now, admittedly, it's not as bad as I had made it appear in some of our private chats this week. Being somebody who has to overthink every little thing, because that's just the way that my Asperger's brain works. But, it is what it is. So, but before we actually get into the actual show, Nico, was there something that, was there anything, is there anything going on, anything on your mind that you want to just pop it out in the air?
I thought we were saving this part for later on in the show. So,
well, I mean, we are, but I'm just saying, is there anything in your life, anything outside of the YouTube space that's on your mind that you want to talk about? Because to be honest, I haven't really seen you much this week.
Let's see here. Got another video project done for my internship. The semester's almost over. Things are going well on the school front. Might get a new job soon on campus, and also starting another show. We're going to do a test trial tomorrow, and nice. I'll do a plug for it at the end of this show. But yeah, my friends and I are starting a nice little tabletop show on Twitch, and I look forward to seeing how it turns out, and I look forward to hearing all the feedback from you guys when we get it up and running.
Okay. Nice.
Plus, Endgame is next week.
Yes, which, a little spoiler alert, we are going to be doing a non-spoiler review for it on next week's show, and then the week after that, which should be May 5th or May 3rd or whatever the hell day that's supposed to be, where we'll be doing a full, almost 2-hour spoiler discussion.
Correction. You will be doing a non-spoiler review on next week's show, because I will be seeing it at the time this show is live.
Dude, you're not going to go that Thursday night? Really?
There weren't any tickets left. My sister, I didn't want to wait until Saturday, so I decided the whole family is going to go see it on Friday night.
Okay, all right. No, I see, now, it's something like that I can forgive, and that's totally cool. That's awesome. Everybody in the chat, I see there's a few of you. Sound off who we got, and let us know when you'll be seeing Endgame, and let us know how excited you are for it. But before we get into the news, I myself do something that I would like to announce, and this is pretty huge.
I'm excited for this.
This is really big, especially for us, as this is the first time that I'm actually trying anything in this department. So when I, did my little self-imposed exile from YouTube last year, I told myself that I was never gonna get back involved in any of this stuff, and Kees had to come knocking on the door and be like, "Hey, Chris, why don't you come back and do this?" I'm like, "God damn it." Fine. So
when I think I'm out, they pull
me back in. Exactly. And as part of that, I knew that if we were going to do it, I wanted to go all the way. I wanted to do this show, which now we've been doing. This is now our 22nd episode. Holy shit. That's awesome. And but I noticed something the whole time. This is, YouTube is as great of a platform as it is. It's not the only platform that we could use. So, I would like to announce that as of tonight, as of this episode, you can find this on across all of your favorite places where you guys listen to podcasts. We are officially launching the Who Cares Anyway podcast feed, and so you can get it on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, for God's sakes. Like I said, guys, everywhere you can get your favorite podcasts, you can now listen to this show as well. And there are a couple things that I'll tease real quick that like Ryan and myself were working on something that if it doesn't go on that feed, it will be its own separate feed, but still under the same banner. So we're looking forward to just expanding the brand and seeing where the rest of this year can take this channel, because somebody's listening, and we appreciate that immensely. The cool guy, very happy to see you here. What's up, man? Brian Nussbaum, howdy ho, back to you, sir. Always happy to see you guys in the chat. Thank you so much. And yeah, we're excited. And you know, the fact that we have an audience every week, and the fact that we have guys, you know, fans like you guys who tune in every single week and join the conversations, that's why we're doing this. Because somehow we found ourselves an audience, and we want to grow it. And this is the next step in growing that audience. And I know you guys are going to be a huge part of that. So all that we're asking is, literally, as soon as we're on the show, go to Spotify or go to wherever you get your favorite podcasts and subscribe. I'll post links to all the RSS feeds as soon as the show is over, and as well as on the Facebook page and on Twitter. Again, you guys just follow me at Skywalker Dohmen, and I'll have a master thread of all the links to all the places where you can download the show.
And I will try to stutter less, so it sounds like you're not having any technical difficulties when you listen to the podcast feed.
But yeah, no, Nico, how excited are you for the podcast feed?
I'm excited. You know, I've tried to do podcasts in the past with my boy Hunter Chambliss, and everything was wrestling related. And the thing is, we just couldn't keep the thing condensed to a certain amount of time, and we were struggling to find a weekly upload schedule. But you guys here at Dedicated to Art, us guys at Dedicated to Art, we have a system down. We know what our formula is, and I like that, and we're going to expand on it. We're expanding on it in this new podcast form. We're going to try some new stuff with the podcast form that you won't see here on YouTube, and I can't wait to see how I can contribute to that with my own sort of content that sort of gives me a bit more of a personality here on this channel. Much like you and Ryan have established yourself as the music guys, Kees has established himself as the Game of Thrones guy.
I was about to say, don't worry. I know that when you're ready, you'll come to me with an idea, and you know, as soon as you are ready to go forward with it, you know what I'll tell you? I'll tell you go for it. Simple as
Yay.
But yeah, so guys, this is a really exciting time, and and to all the audio listeners, welcome to the first episode that was made when this thing was officially a thing. So thank you for listening. But yeah, holy shit, man, here we are. So let's celebrate by diving into some movie news. Woo!
I just realized we just announced a podcast, and I did something visual that people aren't going to know what I just did.
Yes, for everybody who's listening, Nico just embarrassed himself by doing a wonderful diving motion. It wasn't as graceful as his mother's beautiful ballet movement at the end of our reaction, which you will see at the later on tonight. But a little tease, I suppose, for the end of the Star Wars Championship Schmoedown reaction, which, oh my god, what a fucking match.
The Star Wars matches always deliver, except for maybe that one time, but yeah, for the most part, they always, talking about Bruce Green on short notice, yeah.
Yeah.
Had he had some study time, I'm pretty sure he would have done a lot better. But yeah, for the most part, every Star Wars match is just fantastic because we're dealing with experts in the field of Star Wars.
Yes, and it's pretty much always awesome. But yeah, so let's dive on in some movie news. Starting off with, now, Nico, you're familiar with a little game from 2001 called Halo Combat Evolved, right?
Red versus Blue is one of my favorite things that Rooster Teeth puts out. So yes, I am familiar with the Halo games,
Nice.
although I am not a regular player of them. And the few times I have tried to play the game, I was the guy who got teabagged after getting shot.
Fair enough. And yeah, I love the Halo games. And I know that for years and years and years there has been attempt after attempt to make a Halo movie or something, and it just hasn't been there, sadly. But Showtime, who acquired the rights, I believe, last year or 2 years ago, they're now fully developing a complete Halo series, which, smart move, adapting a video game as expansive as Halo is into a TV series, which might be a point I'll bring up a little bit later on in the show.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Not even subtle. Don't care. They're developing it, and we now have our Master Chief, who will be played by Pablo Schreiber. And yes, this is Liev Schreiber's brother, half-brother, or brother-in-law. No, half-brother. Which, funny enough, that's what Liev Schreiber was to Hugh Jackman in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and that movie sucks. Hashtag no shame. But, so you hear about this, and you realize when Showtime, who has brought about great shows like The Tudors, does hearing this information give you hope for this show, or does it worry you a little bit?
So it kind of really doesn't do much for me positively or negatively, except that I recognize this guy from the 3 episodes I watched of American Gods. He was, I believe he was the leprechaun guy, but he's pretty tall for a leprechaun, I'll give you that. But he was basically, I think he was the god of luck, is what they were going for. Okay. And in that little bit I saw of him, he was interesting. So I feel like, he's obviously trying to come out of his brother's shadow in a way, because when this is the first I'm actually hearing of Liev Schreiber having a brother. So, this could be his role. This could be his role to break out and become somebody much like Sabretooth was Liev Schreiber's role to break. Well, granted, he had some other roles that he broke out in as well.
Because before he took that, like, everybody knew him for the Manchurian Candidate remake with Denzel and Meryl Streep. But
Denzel Washington, yay!
God, I need to get Dagnino on this show, just so we can talk a little Bobby and the Juice.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Please.
But stupid side tangent aside, no, and you're right, because I'm excited because Halo is my favorite game trilogy of all time. The entire trilogy of 1, 2, and 3, they are pretty much perfect games. Like, sure, there's nitpicks you can make about them, but in my opinion, they completely revolutionized the gameplay experience. They revolutionized multiplayer experience, but they also had a great story. And a lot of that story was because of the character of Master Chief and his AI assistant Cortana, and the adventures they'd go on, fighting the Covenant and trying to get rid of the Flood. And you deal with great villains like the Prophet Truth or the Prophet Regret, and or even like you have a great anti-hero story in the Arbiter, this Covenant elite who failed to stop Master Chief in the first game, but then he's sent on a suicide mission in the second game, but then winds up teaming up with Chief in the second game and in through the third one. And it's just it's such great storytelling. So I I'm nervously excited because Showtime does have a good track record, but as we also have seen, video game adaptations rarely work, if at all.
But they always do show potential, even the ones that don't succeed.
This is true.
Ratchet and Clank, I actually like that movie. I understand it's not going to win any Oscars, but it's an enjoyable movie for what it is.
It's a fun film. It's exactly what the Sly Cooper movie would have been if they'd actually fucking released it.
So there is always potential for video game adaptations in the form of live action or cartoon. This has potential. Let's just hope it's reached. And please, Showtime, give me a cameo from one of the characters from Red vs. Blue. Even if it's just like a short little line from Caboose. I will take it. I will take it. But give me something from Caboose, please.
I feel like, knowing our luck, something will happen. And I look forward to seeing what they can do. As we move on to the next story, John Cena is a popular guy. Wouldn't you agree, Nico? And his name is John Cena.
Yes, John Cena is a very popular guy. He is a 16-time world champion over in the WWE, tied with Ric Flair's record. And he's used that fame to sort of follow in The Rock's footsteps and become a megastar. He's slowly branching out into movies. We've seen that he has some comedic chops, and I don't know what this role is that they've given him. I thought it was going to be King Shark, but then I've heard that he might be playing something else. So,
so to give a little context, I'm just amazed. 16 times, what the fuck? Anyway.
Yes, he is the guy who is so far only one who's tied Ric Flair's record for. At least that's what WWE will recognize. If you count like TNA and New Japan in that mix, there's probably someone who's beaten the record of 16 world championship reigns. But if you only focus on like the WWE championship and the big gold belt world heavyweight championship, it's just Ric Flair and John Cena at 16 apiece.
But never mind that. How many times do they have to defend the belt a year?
A lot.
Again, this is why I will always prefer the Schmoedown over WWE. Title matches mean something. Anyway, but no. So back to John Cena. As an actor, reportedly in talks to join the cast of The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn sequel to 2016's film. Originally he was rumored to be playing King Shark. That's not happening anymore because now they have him playing the role of Peacemaker. And big shock, this is a character I don't really know that much about. I just know that technically he's kind of a good guy. Kind of. Somebody in the chat, feel free to yell at me. Feel free to correct me. I won't be mad. It's fine. But I'm trying to picture Cena in a heroic type, and I just don't know if that's him.
I just find it funny that the guy who we joke about not being able to see has been given potentially been given a character that we've never seen or heard of before. Yeah.
Well, and
because King Shark, at least King Shark has some fanfare. He's been in a couple animated movies for DC, and King Shark has had some great arcs on the Flash TV show on the CW over the past couple of years. So that's an interesting character that I would have loved to seen. I would have loved to seen explored on the big screen, especially when you also consider Killer Croc was in the last movie. And granted, this is still technically a reboot / sequel, but still, it's nice to see a giant meta sea creature walking around the streets causing mayhem from time to time.
Yeah, and my worry is, now I get a lot of people give him crap for his appearance in Bumblebee, but I actually liked him.
I still need to see Bumblebee. That's probably the only Transformers movie I will ever see, but I still have not yet seen it.
Okay, see Bumblebee, but also see the 1986 animated movie. It's actually pretty good. It's very dark, but it's pretty good.
I'll give it a chance.
Give it a chance. But none of the Michael Bay shit. Just
No, I will stay as far away from that.
smart man. Although research them for trivia, but don't actually watch them. Anyway, side tangent aside. Yeah, I think it looks fine. Moving on to the next story. Now let's talk about a movie that we actually liked. Black Panther.
Yay!
Yay! Black Panther! Yay! 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 Anyway, so Letitia Wright skyrocketed as Shuri. She was incredible. I adore the character. I adore the performance. I think she has a solid career ahead of her.
She owned the role of Shuri.
She owned it. Absolutely. Even though I got in a little bit of a scuffle with John Roca about whether or not she would be technically considered a superhero or not. Sorry, Roca. Sorry, Uncle. I give in. But yeah, she was incredible, and I loved her. But as I mentioned, her career is taking off, and someone who noticed her right away is a fellow MCU director. That goes by the name of Kenneth Branagh. Heard of him, Nico?
He likes to stage murders on trains, from last I heard.
Sometimes he does, as he did in 2017 with his adaptation of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, where, of course, he played Hercule Poirot. I had to make sure I get the pronunciation right. And, the movie wasn't that big of a critical hit, but it was big enough of a financial hit that it has now warranted a sequel entitled Death on the Nile, obviously also based on the Agatha Christie novel, which, as someone who has read the novel, I'm quite excited for this, because we also have, in addition to Kenneth and Letitia Wright, Armie Hammer and Gal Gadot. Yes. 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 Nico, you hear this cast. You hear murder mystery, takes place in Egypt. It's got to at least interest you a little bit, right?
Let's see here. Murder mystery in Egypt with Princess Sherry, Kenneth Branagh, Wonder Woman, and King Arthur. Yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
King Arthur?
Wait, was Armie Hammer in the...
Armie Hammer was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Call Me By Your Name.
Okay, then who was in the King Arthur movie?
Charlie Hunnam.
Oh. Well, I'm an idiot. There's something to study.
You're fine. Well, you know what? Hold on, though. Speaking of idiots, because, yes, I'm excited for Hercule Poirot, but I want to get into this for a moment. Speaking of idiots, outside of myself, Cannes Film Festival, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? I mean, is everybody just out to get Netflix this year? Just because they won a few Oscars? Like, really? What's going on with that?
People are resistant. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, because to give a sum up, the Cannes Film Festival, which is arguably the most prestigious film festival of the entire year, this is where a lot of your Oscar guaranteed winners show up, and if they perform well, you can damn well bet they're going to do very well come award season. And they're not going to, and just like last year, they're not accepting any entries from Netflix, even though Netflix is playing ball with the Spielbergs and the Academy and the Who-Nots, because they're buying theaters. They're actually doing that. Like, why?
Small answer: fear. They're afraid that because change is scary. Change is scary, and they see this new market encroaching on the territory that they've sort of controlled for the longest time. And now that Netflix has shown itself to be an award winner, it has them concerned that, okay, there are two ways we can go about this. We can either try our hardest to make better movies and just make the better competitor win, or we can sabotage the game and prevent this underdog from getting a foothold to begin with. It's sad that they've chosen the latter, the negative side of things, but you know, Netflix, if they keep putting out good work and if they keep playing ball, no matter how many times they change the rules, eventually evolution will win out.
Yeah, and that's and that's why it's one of those things where I just don't understand why. Like, I can't believe to say this, but it feels like the rest of the right now the rest of Hollywood is turning sort of Netflixist, if that's a term I can coin.
Oh, let me correct you. Just the movie side of Hollywood, because again, the TV side of things is usually very quick to adapt to the changing times because they have to. Like for the longest time, TV was considered the step down for
And
certain actors' careers, and now look at who is doing TV shows. Like we talked a lot about the stuff on Disney Plus that's coming out in the next couple months. They're bringing in the MCU's biggest actors to reprise their roles for various shows. And those shows are going to do baller money for Disney and for the streaming service. So like
yes.
the game has changed. TV is no longer considered the little brother. TV is considered the equal, and they do, the movie side of things doesn't really want to recognize TV as the equal, nor do they want to recognize Netflix as the equal because they want to remain on top. And it feels like the old hierarchy is afraid that they're being slowly moved out, and they don't want to give up their spot. That's the issue.
But of course, why, how dare they? How dare they be forced to accept any form of actual change? Because we're Hollywood. We don't want to change things. We're movies. We're just escapist art, right? No, no. It
We'll
all.
make movies. We'll make movies about wanting to make change, but then as soon as the chance comes for us to initiate it ourselves,
We
we'll
don't
be
want
like, nah.
Nah. Where's the fun in that? So, yeah, I don't even know where to go with that. But yeah, no, guys in the chat, yeah, it the resistance to it is completely insane, and I don't know what I don't know what we the audience are really supposed to do about it outside of talk about it and just try to get the awareness out there to hope to God that future film festivals like Toronto or Sundance can just not make those same mistakes and can just be like, hey, Netflix, bring your movies, we'll take them. But or Venice, hell, which I think is actually where Irishman's gonna make its festival debut. Which, God, I want to see that movie so bad. It looks so. Just the mere idea. It's got me so intrigued. Anyway, let's move on to the next story before I get too much more caught up in my nonsense. Nico, refresh me. You have seen Bridesmaids, right?
I have, but it's been quite a while. But I have seen it.
Fair enough. So then, you would say that Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy and at least and again for me, Annie Mumolo were all pretty funny across the board. Is that a fair assessment?
They were. Although before you get into the news, I just want to say, Melissa McCarthy and Bridesmaids it looks so unrecognizable compared to the other movies she's in. It's like she stands out differently in that movie, and like
Honestly,
I don't recognize her in that movie as opposed to.
It's the hair that I think is what makes the difference.
You're not wrong. That's one of the things. It's just something. I don't know. Something about her in that movie. It's like, is that Melissa McCarthy or is that an entirely different person? She just stands out to me differently in that movie than she does in the other movies she's in.
Also, side note, what are you playing with? I'm just curious.
The Stormtrooper toy that I had earlier. It's made out of Legos.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of looks like a Bionicle figure.
That it is modified. It is sort of modeled after the old Bionicle stuff. I believe the term is called construction because it's like construction action figures.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's kind of stupid.
I'm not the one who came up with the terminology.
That's fair. All right. But no, so side tangent aside, the reason we brought up Bridesmaids is because Annie Momolo and Kristen Wiig, who starred in Bridesmaids, they are coming back to do another film together. And so the film is called Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which, from the sounds of it, sounds like a combination of The Beach Bum, a movie that I just loved, but also Bridesmaids in terms of the kind of humor we're going to be getting, as well as a 90s action film. Because essentially, the story is that they play, two best friends who live in a small Midwestern town. They go on a vacation in Florida where they get themselves like caught up in this like villain's plan to kill everyone in town. So this sounds crazy, but I'm actually curious. Like I'll want to see a trailer as soon as they're done production. Like, just to be honest, I don't think there's enough action comedies. At least not enough good ones anymore. Because I know somebody I know said they liked Spy Who Dumped Me. I didn't. But Nico, you hear about this? Does this interest you at all?
Wasn't Amy Schumer in a film just like this recently, though?
Snatched. That stunk.
Okay, that's what has me concerned a little bit is that if I'm reading the premise correctly here, and the vision in my head sort of matches that synopsis, I feel like we already got that movie, and if that movie didn't do well, where I'm concerned is if could this be history repeating itself? Now, granted, Kristen Wiig, Annie Momolo, they're good at what they do. Amy Schumer, she's one of those actresses that's hit or miss in movies and also in comedy.
Oh
But
yes.
Kristen Wiig, she's one of those actresses who can do it all. She can do comedy, she can do drama, she can do sketch. Whatever you need her to do, she can do, and she can do it very well.
You can just ask
So,
Ken Knapsack.
so I have hopes for this movie. At the same time, simply because of what's historically behind us, I also have concerns. So hopefully the hopes outweigh the concerns when the finished product is here for us to see.
This is all I'm gonna do. Cause like I said, I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic because I didn't like Snatched, I didn't like Spy Who Dumped Me, but if there's one if there's one type of movie that I just want to see in my lifetime, it's basically the female version of Tropic Thunder.
Ooh, okay, that's an
It,
interesting way of looking at it.
and I feel like this would be a good sort of testing ground for that kind of film. Where, female led, but obviously a lot of good jokes and a lot of action with, a sort of basic plot, but having a lot of fun with it. And we haven't really gotten there yet. So if maybe this is the movie that convinced Hollywood to give that idea a shot, then please, I want it. Because I remember I once had to answer a kind of like a movie fights ish question about that, and I just remember I had the most insane cast in my head, and it would be awesome.
I'm trying to picture because you just made the Tropic Thunder comparison. I'm trying to picture who would be cast as the Les Grossman in
Oh,
this plot here.
I've already got it. Sigourney Weaver.
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting way to go. I like it.
Thank you. And if to be this is actually this actually I don't know if this footage is still out there, but I remember when I taped this, if I had actually said that at the time, I would have gotten a bonus point just because Yeah. I don't know if that footage is out there, and who knows. But let's move on to... actually, I do have a quick fun fact. Hey, Nico, did you know that over the last year, MoviePass has lost 90% of its business?
I did not know that until today, and I'm not a member of MoviePass, so I'm not affected by this in any way.
I'm not anymore. I was till about this time last year when I was just like, you know what? No. I'm done. MoviePass was great. Then they became a joke, and I'm done.
I can see buzzards hovering over the headquarters for MoviePass as we speak.
Trying to pick up the poor souls who are left.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Which, speaking of things that have come to die, Nico, I want you to do me a favor. Do you know the song "I Will Remember You" by Sarah McLachlan? If so, can you start humming that for me a little bit? Because what was becoming one of my favorite bits of all time, I have to put it to bed because Disney, you killed the Redwall adaptation. Oh, sorry. God damn it. I meant Mousecard. Why did I say Redwall? Because not that it matters anymore. Because, yes, Mousecard, the adaptation that was supposed to star the kid from Love Actually and Andy Serkis, it's now been scrapped. You know, after Disney bought the Fox merger. And literally, this is the funny thing, too. This adaptation was 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away from going into production. So, what happened that Disney decided no? Nico, do you have any fun speculation thoughts?
Let's see here. Obviously, we knew there were going to have to be some cost-cutting measures when this deal went through. And my guess is they spent so much money on Dark Phoenix and New Mutants that they realized, okay,
Might not well spent, in my opinion.
we're gonna have to cut our losses somewhere, so it might as well be in something that we haven't gotten actual footage for yet. And in this case, it must have been the Mousecard. That doesn't mean it can't be brought back up in the future. It just might not be the right time for it.
Excellent. And you know what? Okay. Again, just for the sake of reviving my bit, because I will never get sick of making that joke, even though, yes, it's stupid. Because Redwall and Mousecard are two very different things. You're comparing an apple to an orange. But it's fun for me to do that, because one of them is really great, though it got a little iffy towards the end of its run. And the other one is a clear ripoff, in my personal opinion, of course. But, yeah, and that's probably exactly what happened, is Disney took a look at all of the projects that were supposed to be coming from Fox, and they were just like, okay, you want us to produce a movie about, you know, little mice running around with swords, and there's like actual gore, like this is some Watership Down type shit. No thanks. Which to be honest, I'm kind of glad they did it, because I don't know if they could have adapted it correctly. Because they would have tried to kidify it, just so they could make more money. And no, if you're going to adapt something that is as violent as Mousecard got at times, you need to just bam, go for it. And if you don't have the balls for it, then don't do it. So that's.
And by the way,
yeah.
I just want to state for the record that I think I didn't really know what the premise of this movie was, so I can't really say from experience that I know how much gore is in the original product. Nor can I really say. I will say this though. I doubt Disney lacks the balls to do something gory and out there. Maybe not under the Disney name, but hey, they own Fox now, so they can still use the Fox name and produce gory stuff.
True.
I can say this right now. Ryan Reynolds has a deal with ABC where he's working on, I believe, a game show. So he's already set the motions are already in place for him to establish a working relationship with Disney and therefore keep Deadpool alive. We've already heard rumors that Deadpool is the only X-Men franchise so far that's not getting axed or rebooted. So there is still potential for, with this merger, this acquisition, for Disney to do dark stuff in the future. It just might not have been the right time for this movie.
Yeah, and yes, you actually took my final point, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, it's not the right time because we're still so new to this acquisition that to open up on such a risk would be a bad idea. You want to play it safe. You want to get just some guaranteed money makers to get the ground running, and then once you've basically gotten like a few $1 billion in box office back, then that's when you go for the risky stuff. So, yeah, I was going to say, and Robert Adams, our wonderful guest from last week.
Hey, Robert, how you doing, man?
He says they should have combined Watership Down with Jordan Peele's Us. Yes, and you know what? And as long as they didn't do the ending from Us, I would have liked that a lot more. But alas, what are you gonna do? So we move on to the next story. Let's talk about some more Celebration news, huh, Nico?
Awesome.
So next Celebration, 2020. You want to come with me to Anaheim?
What month?
It's probably gonna be around this same time next year.
Provided I'm not in college still? Absolutely.
Okay. Because they announced that this is going to be that it's going to be in Anaheim next year, and I'm just thinking to myself, yes, please. Considering that hopefully by this time next year I'll be living out there, it'd be real nice to just go.
So, I actually like that it's in Anaheim simply because Disneyland is also stationed
Right there.
and therefore I'm assuming
and by
Galaxy's Edge
will finally be open. So
the smart marketing because you're having Celebration close to your biggest Star Wars attraction of all time, a literal canon place in Star Wars where we can go. So yeah, I like the blending of things there, and who knows, Anaheim could become the regular spot for Celebration over the years to come.
Well, I much prefer it where they take it on the road every year.
Oh, I do too. I'm just saying, like, if they were to decide to keep it in the same place every year, this would be the place to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Because, yeah, like you said, Disneyland is right there, as is Galaxy's Edge. Well, no, because you can make the same argument for Orlando.
There would be two Galaxy's Edges, obviously one on the west, one on the east, but I have a feeling they're going to put more emphasis on the one on the west coast, simply because.
And I suppose also because for the Lucasfilm people, it's just like a 2-hour drive, as opposed to flying halfway across the country.
Yeah.
Fair point. But
yeah, I would very much love to go to this. It helps that my cousin is Anthony Bresnikan, noted reporter in the Hollywood area, especially when it comes to Star Wars and MCU stuff. So
screw you too.
maybe I'll have some familial access to this. I'm not going to make any promises in regards to that. I have a hard time asking family for favors because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm using them for personal gain. But if the opportunity
you totally would be using them for personal gain.
If the opportunity is there,
you take it. You nut up and you take it. But fair point. Or hey, if let's say I launch a Star Wars show before the end of the year and we get to like 1,500 subscribers, we could qualify just on that alone. But
Yes, we could.
I don't know if we're that popular yet.
But who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe you and I can be moderating a panel next year.
Oh, dear God. Wouldn't that be scary?
Well,
That's right. D23 is also going to be in Anaheim this year.
Huh.
That's right. I forgot about that. Nice. Anyway, sorry to cut you off mid-thought. What's up?
I was going to say, we put our feet in our mouths already in front of a pretty big audience. It's just they're not in the same room as us. So what's the difference other than a bigger stage with brighter lights?
True. And you know what? At least there, they'll have the decency to call us out on our shit in person. So.
Yep.
All right. Move on to the next story of Celebration Weekend. J.J. Abrams. Oh, J.J. Oh, dear. Oh, J.J. Abrams.
It seems more and more like my predictions from last week's discussion are starting to come true here.
Yeah, and which is why another reason why I'm glad it's just us, because now we can just speculate, we can talk, we can have some thoughts, because he sat down for an interview and said that when he was asked about Rey's parentage and how The Last Jedi took that story, he basically, at the very core of what he said was that there's more to it than that. And it's like, well, duh. But of course, in his usual JJ way, specificity is not his game, because he has that damn mystery box. So here, Nico, let's ask an obvious question. Where do you think that mystery box is going?
I see it going the mirroring route of Return of the Jedi. We had one idea in our head for The Force Awakens and A New Hope. Then we were given a big reveal, or a big lack thereof of reveal, in Empire Strikes Back and The Last Jedi. Now, here we are for The Rise of Skywalker, and much like Return of the Jedi, we're getting the from a certain point of view answer. We're getting the answer in which everyone was telling the truth. Nobody was lying. Everything is true. It's just a matter of how you look at it. So I feel like Rey's parents, they are in fact her parents, but maybe they're the Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru figures that she's just memorized them to be her parents in that way. Biologically, I heard something that maybe Luke didn't die a virgin. So who knows where that could go?
I was going to say, and you know what? Let's break that down for just a second here. Okay, so Mark Hamill was actually asked on Twitter if he thought that Luke Skywalker died a virgin. To which Mark Hamill very casually responded, "While I have no official answer, in my personal backstory for him, he did not." But of course, as we all know, ever since Last Jedi came out, Mark Hamill has just been trolling fans left and right, and he is a godsend saint for it.
Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la.
Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Oh. But speaking of that, though, Nico, is he trolling again, or do we think that maybe there is something?
That's the joke. That's the $1 million question. Is like he knows, and also for all we know, JJ might have said, "Hey, listen, say this to the press, get everyone talking, and just make everyone lose their minds," because they'll either be right on our trail or they'll be completely thrown off our trail, but they won't know until they see the movie. This is the type of chaos that JJ likes to create when he keeps things under wraps, and this is the type and. You know, Mark Hamill is very protective of the Luke character. So sometimes, even if it means he feels like the story should have gone a different way, and granted, there are a million ways that the story of Luke has been told that contradict themselves, both in Legends and in canon, because like George Lucas basically said, yeah, every book is true. Every book is true in Legends, and that led to a million different conflicting things. So there,
Oh Lord.
and that's what I like about The Last Jedi, is that it shows that characters, no matter what you think they have to be, if you think they have to be set in stone, you're wrong, because all characters, much like in real life, they go through some sort of changes. They go through experiences that cause them to change their perspective. And, Luke had to do that in The Last Jedi. And Mark Hamill, he has this own set idea in his head of what Luke Skywalker should be. And, he might be using his own headcanon to throw us off, or he could be just teasing us with actual bits of the script.
Okay, thank you for going on that tangent, because Robert Adams, screw you, screw you, screw you. He replied to one of his tweets. I wish that would happen for me. To be fair, I never tweet. I never tweet at Mark Hamill, so I wouldn't know. But although, to be fair, all I did one time was I just retweeted something that Jesse Malton posted about Malton Fest, which I'm so sad I can't be there in a few weeks. Which, speaking of Star Wars, Lord Dern's going to be there.
By the way, when your jaw dropped and I wasn't looking at the chat, so I thought I said something that was like burning across to you.
No. I'm just jealous of Robert. But no. But anyway, so I tweeted out or retweeted something that Jesse Malton tweeted out, and then I saw Leonard Malton liked my tweet, and I'm just like, ah! So
they seem like super cool people.
Oh my God, Jessie is the sweetest. I would love to have her on this show, and of course, naturally, if somehow I could just ask her to bring her dad for just even 5 minutes. 5 minutes of Leonard Maltin is all I would need, and my life would be just over. Because sadly, I'll never get the chance to meet Gene Siskel or Roger Ebert. But if I can meet Leonard Maltin at some point before I die,
The podcast listeners are getting a very interesting audio show.
Yes, you guys are. And I regret none of it. As we come into our final story for the night. Nico, is it wrong of me to be selfish on this one?
I don't blame you for feeling the way that you do.
Okay, thank you.
Because, if I was in your shoes, I would probably feel pretty pissed off too.
Well, and to be fair, I'm not pissed off at the idea. I'm pissed off because everybody has taken this quote and fucking ran with it. And they're, basically this is a clickbait title. This is a fucking clickbait. So, okay. On Tuesday, last day, or it was on Monday, sorry. On the last day of Star Wars Celebration, Josh Horowitz of MTV News interviewed Kathleen Kennedy. And what he basically was trying to bait her into saying was, is Lucasfilm working on a Knights of the Old Republic adaptation? Guys, I'm just gonna put this out there right now. There is no way in hell that Kathleen Kennedy knows what Knights of the Old Republic is. So Josh Horowitz, and granted, I don't blame him for asking. I would do the same thing if I was him. But, dude, you went for just a low-hanging fruit. So, of course, naturally, Kathleen, just gave a very political answer of, yes, we are developing a ton of new ideas, and something along those lines sounds familiar. And, yeah, I'm sure it's that, the Benioff and Weiss / Rian Johnson trilogy, which, by the way, that's a combined effort now. I didn't know about that, so that's interesting. And I'm sure that's going to be something set in the Old Republic times, but there's no way in hell that they're going to be covering Knights of the Old Republic, partially because, in my personal opinion, you can't tell that kind of a story in movies. A story of that magnitude can only be told in television. And now, why am I the guy who's being all super defensive about it? Because, well,
go back
alert.
to the episode we did with Kevin Smets.
Yeah,
and
go back to the
why.
episode we do with Kevin Smets. But to quick sum up, yes, I'm currently working on a canon adaptation of Knights of the Old Republic. I'm working on a version of that game that actually complies with current Star Wars canon. So if this is a real thing and 2 years of my life get wasted, I'm going to be pretty fucking pissed. So sorry. But yes, Nico, give me some thoughts.
So this is why usually when I think, ooh, I could do a fan film like that, or ooh, I could do a fan project like that, I usually go for the stuff that nobody gives a second thought about. Like in terms of Marvel Comics, I would go with the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation. One, because obviously I like wrestling, but also two, because it's something that I don't see a lot of people really saying, let's try that. It's untested waters, so I'd like to be the one to sort of try those waters and play with the misfits. Like, let's say if I were to work with DC or something, I would love to do something with Chip the Squirrel with the Green Lantern ring, because no one is really clamoring for him, but he has an interesting story worth telling. Uh, and in regards to even Star Wars, I've mentioned in private to Chris and Kees, and even Ryan at times, I would love to do a potential live action adaptation of the Freemaker Adventures, the Lego series that they've been doing on Disney XD, because I'm just very passionate about those characters and I love the story they told in those short morning cartoon adventures. Hell, we were even talking about an Ewok horror film based off of the DLC content for the most recent Battlefront 2. That's content that no one is really trying to explore, whereas Knights of the Old Republic, much like Batman, it's something people have been thinking, that's something I want to get my hands on. That's something I want to try and make reality. And when you have people from all over the place going to those, you're going to have to fight for it. And sometimes you might be on the losing end of that fight. Whereas if you go to the thing that nobody's really looking at, you're more likely to win that scenario.
Yeah. And do I know I'm being completely selfish? Yes, of course I know I'm being completely selfish. And I'm okay with that, because part of why I'm as passionate for my KOTOR idea as I am, I'll be completely honest, guys, it's spite. Because I hate where the story wound up. So it's kind of my way of paying tribute to a great story and to wonderful characters and to this wonderful time, this wonderful era of Star Wars that we don't get anymore, because the video games are non-existent outside of Fallen Order, which, yes, does look amazing, but this looks like the first promising Star Wars game in over a decade. Where the fuck have they all been? Oh, wait, that's right. We had to get Kinect Star Wars in 2011, and then we got Battlefront 1 and 2 in 2015 and 2017, and both of them stunk. So this is my tribute to that era of Star Wars, where, sure, even if the movies coming out at the time were completely divisive and some of them weren't very good at all, at least everything else was making up for it. And now that we're in an era where we're back to being divisive as all hell just because of one fucking movie, let's do a show that people actually want. But yeah, I'm selfish when I say please use my scripts, because I've been investing a lot of time into these things. So sorry about that.
Hey, I feel you, man. I feel you. We've all been heartbroken at some point, and who knows? Maybe the opportunity is still there. Again, this could just be like a rumor that's floating around. Maybe she was just trying to give the political answer, as you say she was, and she doesn't really know what they have in mind for what they're going to do.
And that's fine. Like either which way, because again, it's an opportunity for more Star Wars content. The only difference is that this time I would be the one giving my voice into it, and if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Great. Otherwise, this will be the biggest fan production of all time, and I'll happily share that title with Star Wars Theory, if he'll have me.
And I'm sure he would.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, Nico is going to serve my ass on a platter. And it's going to be a fun time. Don't go anywhere.
It's a good time for JTE to come back. I feel like he's got a win in store here. Plus, I heard he's working on promoting a new children's book he's writing. It's called Geppetto and the Jew Bear. So,
yes. Oh, that's amazing.
so yeah, I'm going with the famed Ecuadorian film reviewer and scooter crash test dummy JTE.
Oh God. Okay, that wins the video. Nico, you just won the video. Una, thoughts on this match?
You know, and we were talking off camera before we started, and I said that the Joker is one of the scariest characters in all of fiction.
True.
And
Just fine.
And I'm glad that this movie clearly recognizes that. That
Yeah,
makes me
I
very
like.
happy.
Yeah, I agree because I like how, I mean, I'd say like a lot of iterations of the Joker have tapped into some of the creepy weirdness here and there. I mean, even some more, I guess gimmicky isn't really the right word, but like Jack Nicholson was a pretty silly iteration of the Joker, but still there were moments.
I mean, hell,
Right.
his introduction when he comes out the elevator is terrifying.
Right. And then you have, Heath Ledger. Wasn't really creepy. He was more of just like maniacal. And then Jared Leto, I'm not really sure what he was doing there. But it wasn't this, because I really like how the filmmakers and Joaquin are leaning into that sort of, there's a creepy something behind the Joker. We know he's not right in the head, but I don't know if I necessarily want to know exactly why. But if I'm going to have to watch it, this is what I would want it to look like, I guess I should say.
And here's the funny thing, though. I don't think they're going to say why.
Oh, man, I'm tearing up a little bit. I just got so many chills just now.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So I remember, and I think a lot of people probably had this, when you watch the original, just the opening of Circle of Life, the song ends with that pound and the Lion King logo right there. You get the chills with that.
Oh, yeah.
That is just an awe-inspiring opening.
Yeah.
And I pretty much felt those chills in various places and just in this trailer.
Yeah.
Just seeing these characters in live action.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing. There's a lot of talk on the interwebs about, oh, you guys are just gonna get another of the same exact movie as you got before and you're eating it up. You sheep out there just eating whatever the Disney hand feeds you.
There were no sheep in that trailer.
Remaking and all this stuff. Why can't you?
There's sheep in Africa?
I'm making a point. Shut up.
April 13th. The Odd Couple, Jeff Snyder and Mark Andreyko heading to Chicago.
Even though they're odd, they are capable of working together. You're a force to be reckoned with, and you can take it all the way.
Going up against Ben Bateman and Riley. Who's the boss for a shot to play for the team championship?
2019, we're getting a belt. That's the one goal I want.
I can't wait to beat Bateman again.
There's no way I'm going to get nervous on that stage. I was born to compete. I was born to perform.
Can anyone beat you?
And Mr. Alex Damon, Star Wars, explained himself, puts his title on the line, and it goes down during Star Wars Celebration.
This is just what I do all day, every day. It's hard to stump me. Riley's a legend, okay? He's on Mount Rushmore, and I'm lucky enough to play with somebody with class, a true champion who's taught me a lot about this game.
And I'm going to give him a show in Chicago. You can bet on that. Buy your tickets right now.
Get your tickets now, the Schmoedownlive.com. Just make sure you're there in person. You do not want to miss it.
And welcome back to the second half of the Who Cares Anyway podcast tonight. I'm once again your host, Chris Dohmen. Here with me tonight, I've got, of course, the suave one himself, Nico Rigoli. So, Nico, actually, before we went to break, I actually said in the chat to Brian Newsbaum that we hadn't seen the new trailers for Child's Play and Hobbs and Shaw, but I actually screwed that up. And turns out you did. So, could you do me a favor? Talk about him.
Okay, so first let's get to Child's Play. So you guys know from past episodes I'm not much of a horror guy. Having said that, this trailer is piquing my interest for the movie because I like the idea of an updated Chucky for this modern time, essentially a toy that's sort of combined with modern day technology, just using an app on your smartphone to make him work. And apparently there's a glitch in said app and said toy that's causing him to just go on a murder spree. And yeah, I'm very curious to see. Plus, Mark Hamill, who we just talked about in a recent segment on the show, is voicing Chucky for this particular movie. So this might be one of those rare times where I actually check out a horror movie because I like the premise. I'm curious about the new direction they're going with it because the most I know about Chucky from the past stuff is that he did an angle with Rick Steiner in WCW using a poorly timed pre-recorded video that Rick Steiner was like trying to match the timing for because Monday Nitro was going downhill at that time. This is me going on a tangent to stall for time. But yeah, I'm curious about the aspect of modern technology to this beloved character and how they're using it to make him possibly more menacing than he was back in the original films. Now, getting on to Hobbs and Shaw. For the longest time, Fast and Furious was actually one of my weaknesses in Phantom Fight, and now I've slowly become a giant fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, having gotten I've recently marathoned all the movies for Fast and Furious, and because of that marathon, I'm now really excited for Hobbs and Shaw. This trailer, however, I will say, I feel like it's one of those times where they might have showed a little bit too much. And granted, they wanted to show you some good stuff so you'd be even more invested in what we were going to see. And it also brought a smile to my face to see the big dog Roman Reigns alongside his cousin, The Rock, in the trailer for the movie. Again, though, I'm concerned that this is one of those instances where they showed off a little too much, and they possibly showed off the best parts in the trailer, and hopefully I don't have to worry about there being nothing left for me to be excited for when the actual movie comes out.
Okay. Interesting. And it's funny they're saying that because, like, I'm personally actually excited for this one. Like, I'm actually excited for this movie because that's partially why I've been avoiding the trailers. Because, like, I'm just gonna go see this because I'm gonna want a dumb film where I can throw popcorn in my face and finally have a movie in this franchise that I can actually get behind. Because notoriously, guys, sorry, I'm not a fan of this franchise. I'm not. But you throw in Idris Elba, you throw in Jason Statham and The Rock together, and I'm curious. So, and that's good to hear. And Child's Play, congratulations. Who knows? Maybe you and I can do a review together.
This definitely might be one of the rare horror films I actually see because I'm as I was just telling them while you had me stalling.
All right. Yes. Fine. You threw me under the bus for the second time today, Nico. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I just stepped out for just a moment to help my folks with something, but yes, let's keep going.
Yeah, I like the premise. I like the modern aspect of this classical tale. So I kind of want to see where things go, especially also Mark Hamill being the voice of Chucky in this case. I want to see what kind of fun we can have.
I was about to say that never hurts. So, but in the meantime, all right. Ready to go 12 rounds?
I'm prepared to go 12 rounds. I'm not sure if you're ready to go 2.
Probably, because essentially this is just going to come down to a giant case of I like this and I don't. But yes, let's get into it, guys. So, I made a little bit of a boo-boo this week. Spoiler.
Or at least you think you did. You think you made a boo-boo.
Well, yes, and you know what? This is also kind of a way for me to just like vent a little bit about some of my personal feelings on certain things, and maybe just like we'll call it an exercise in self-control. So, spoiler alert for the Team Movie Trivia Schmoedown match between Who's the Boss and The Odd Couple that happened live last weekend in Chicago. And yes, Jonathan Peck, we did see your message. That's really fucking cool, man. I'm very happy to see that. And my foot tastes pretty good. The cool guy. So to give a little warm up of the match. So you have the Odd Couple, Jeff Snyder, Mark Andreyko, 2 legends of the game. You know, one of them who is arguably the best player to have never won a belt, and the longest running team champion of all time. Managed by Roxy Stryer, who, you know, depending on your views of her from Collider Live, either you love her or you hate her. And I'm kind of right in the middle on her. There are some times where I just absolutely, love her on Collider Live. Other times I think not so much. And it's really on just kind of little things. Like that one time where she said, if you don't believe in aliens, you can just fuck off and die. Not a fan of that, but whatever. That's fine. And then on the other flip side of the coin, you have Who's the Boss? Managed by Tom Dagnino. The man needs no introduction. He's got a show called Little Bobby and the Jews, for fuck's sake. You know, and
Want to goldfish here? Want to goldfish here?
And you have the competitors, Mark Riley, one of the greatest players in the Schmoedown history, former 2-time champ, legend in the game. And you also have Ben Bateman, one of the hottest up-and-comers who now everyone likes because he went face and because his teammate is a complete piece of shit. At least his character is. And side note, guys, I actually, as much as I give Andrew Guy crap, he's such a wonderful human being. I adore that man so much.
He is. Like, I recently commented on a post he did. He's doing a thing for the military in his most recent acting gig. And I was like, why must you be such a nice person, but you have to play the biggest douchebag? The biggest douchebag on my favorite game show. Why must you do this to me?
And I loved how he said that made his day. That that was awesome. And of course I had to share that same ad because while I myself am not a veteran, I come from a long line of veterans, and while I myself will never pick up the gun and willingly put myself in a battle situation, I have nothing but respect for those who do. And never let me say that I don't support the troops, because I always will. So, and again, thank you, Andrew, for putting that ad out there. I think that was wonderful.
We have a soldier on our regular panel in Ryan.
Exactly.
So.
And, and that's one of the reasons I love Ryan, is that he won't throw that in my face anytime that we have a political discussion. In fact, I have to just say, I'm the one who always says, and I thank him for his service like almost every show he's on, because I genuinely appreciate, his sacrifice for this country that you and I live in. Kees can go fuck himself, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But he and I disagree on shit all the time. So then why, to me, does it make a difference if... and Oh, holy shit. Robert, thank you so much for your service, man. I greatly appreciate you and all that you've done. So then why is it that I seem to have this stigma of when it comes to the movie trivia Schmoedown, where I don't want real life bleeding into the show. Like, and I very much epically failed to say that the other day in our reaction to said match. Now, Nico, before we actually talk about the big moment, what were your thoughts on that match? A little refresher.
Just the match.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good match, and it went a lot of the ways I thought it would. In that, Mark and Draco, he was embracing the fact that this was his home crowd. Chicago is his territory. And Jeff Snyder, he's just the ultimate showman. He was eating that crowd up. And the after the performance they had at the free-for-all, I felt like momentum was on their side, and it showed once again. I did notice there were some people complaining about how during Who's the Boss's final question, they were a little mad at Snyder for talking while they were trying to answer. And, I can see that gripe. At the same time, Jeff Snyder is not the only person who's done that in the past. So
I was going to say, I'm
set
pretty
a
sure
rule
Ben
for it.
Bateman was one of those people who used to do that.
If you have a problem with it, set a rule for it. Talk to the commissioners. Talk to Sam Levine and Emma Fife. Have a rule put in place if you have an issue with that, stating that all competitors must be quiet during the third round when questions are being answered. Because, even sometimes when it's just the hosts trying to do banter. Like, I've been in matches where certain times the hosts would want to keep banter going during the third round, and it was a little distracting for my ability to think about the answer. So I understand the complaint. But again, if you want to have something done about it, bring it up to the people in charge. But aside from that, the match itself was really good. It was entertaining, high scoring. It kept you on the edge of your seat as the score changed so much. Well done. Well done.
And that's kind of exactly how I felt as well. I mean, Snyder is one of the best heels in the game, and I love his personality. But and Draco, he does a great job of towing the line where yes, he can play a face very convincingly, and he can be a good heel, as we saw back in his time in the Lion's Den where he was in Blofeld's Cat and whatnot. But what and obviously you know where I'm gonna go with this. So that final question happens. Bateman and Riley couldn't feed him to the pigs. And with that, the dear old the Odd Couple won. And they will now go on to face the Shire Wolves and talk about I don't know what the hell is going to happen in that match. But during what was supposed to be the friendly, handshake or hug or whatever, Snyder pulls a very heel move and is just, oh, he's too cool. Pulls it on Bateman. Then, and Draco, he steps up to Bateman and he's just like, nah, I'm out. So, okay, classic heel move. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Now here comes Roxy. Now, keep this in mind, folks. This is a real-life ex-couple who, yes, I get it. I'm aware that, Harloff probably sat down with both of them and said, hey, listen, if this happens, are we cool with going this route? And she smacks the crap out of him. Like the moment itself is kind of amazing. And I appreciate it. And I even appreciated that really stupid video that all of a sudden here comes in Mr. Cackle himself, Andrew Guy, and oh my God, what a loser. Dude, like she just smacked the shit out of you, man. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And of course, I got my wrestling bitch. I had my wrestling bitch face on because I don't like Dastardly Drew Guy. I never have. I never will. But that's the point. You're not supposed to like him. So then we come up to the post-match interviews finally, because everyone's off stage now, and Jen Serger has to track everyone down. And, I appreciate how Who's the Boss kept it classy the entire interview. I really appreciated that. But then we come to the scene that even you, Nico, yourself said was awkward as fuck. And that was the post-match interview for The Odd Couple. And this is... Here, you know what? I'll let you start this off. What is it that I seem to not get? Because, again, I get it. I just don't like it. So why am I supposed to like it? What happened?
Here's what you're not getting. You're not supposed to like it. The intended reaction was, as I wrote on the board, this is awkward. This is the reaction we were all supposed to have because it was all supposed to feel real. This was a worked shoot. This was the blurring between reality and fiction, which you, again, voiced that you did not like. You did not like this. And to which I keep saying, that was the point. You were not supposed to like this. You were not supposed to like that Roxy just went heel and she had a real-life reason for doing so. It was meant to make everyone feel uncomfortable. And the reason why I'm getting praised is because I understood that was the intended reaction. That was what they were going for. That's what everyone in this particular video was going for, and it would not have happened had not everyone given their approval on the thing. Ben had to approve of this angle. Roxy had to approve of this angle. And by the way, there's a chance what we saw might not have happened had Who's the Boss won. Because we know that this is a
slap would have happened regardless.
But still, this is a choose-your-own-adventure environment that we're dealing with, and the adventure that we go on is all dependent on who wins the game and by how much. So the plan was, Ben is trying to cement himself as a face, and the recurring theme is there are still people who don't believe he's officially changed. Like we've seen the posts on the Facebook group where people are saying, what if Ben is an infiltrator? What if he is a spy, a double agent? And the actions that he conducted himself by after the match, he wants to shake people's hand, and they're turning him down. They're turning him down. They're turning him down. And so in a way, in my eyes, Ben was already face as of when he got put through that coffee table. But there were still those holdouts. So in a way, this was like a double turn moment in wrestling. This was like when Stone Cold Steve Austin, the heel character, became a face, or rather a tweener, when he refused to tap out when Bret Hart had him in the sharpshooter for the longest time, and he just ended up passing out from the pain. He earned the respect of the fans. And in my eyes, this has been, by not retaliating violently or in an unproductive and vicious manner, this was him cementing himself as a full-fledged face, and it gives Roxy and Andreyko a bit of an edge because they're still the holdouts that don't want to believe that he's changed, and it's making them look bad, and it's furthering the heel turn for them. So again, basically, what you're not getting is that this you feel like you were supposed to like the reaction that you had. You were supposed to like what you saw, and the point is you weren't. You were supposed to feel uncomfortable. You were supposed to hate that they were acting this way, because that was the intended plan.
Okay. Yes. And I got that. I understood it. And no, I didn't like it, but I don't like it on principle. At all. Because, and granted, and I think there's a little bit of a deeper reason as to why. Now, guys, a little context here. I try not to talk too much about my past work on pre-dedicated art on this show or on this channel at all, just because, depending on who you ask, it could be an ugly history or it could be a nothing history. But when I was involved in the very first fan league and how we were taking off with that and we were starting our own kind of storylines and whatnot, one of my big things was never put real life in the storyline. Because I don't want people's actual drama to be used just to promote a match or to promote an event or so on and so forth. So I don't know if that makes me wrong for that firm belief, which I will stand on. I will not back down. Like, and I don't know, Nico, from hearing that though, maybe should I consider, just for the sake of our reactions and enjoying this show even better?
Here's what I'll say. And it's something I've said before on a couple of the other videos that we've done. Wrestling is life. Life is wrestling. Schmoedown is wrestling. Wrestling is the Schmoedown. And therefore, Schmoedown is life. And life is the Schmoedown. These are we're dealing with entertainment that takes elements of reality, turns it into fiction, and we just go and we get stories out of it. And some of the best stories in fiction are based off of reality. Like my current storyline in these fan leagues right now, and some of the commissioners of the various leagues might not know it because I haven't said so, but basically my storyline right now is my real life tale to get my career back on track, because I haven't really been on that much of a winning streak as of late. I've had like 17 matches all year, and I've only won twice officially. So I'm trying to get back on track. It's the story of the ant versus the grasshopper, and it's just a matter of I don't have a grasshopper. I'm the ant who's trying to put all the work in to get myself back on course. And it's just a matter of where's the grasshopper that's going to end up keeping me down and say I don't belong in the anthill anymore. Is that going to sting a little bit inside? Absolutely. Because, yeah, it sucks to lose. It sucks to be pointed out. It sucks to have all your failures pointed out in front of you. But it makes for a good story. And when you actually win finally and you get yourself back to the top of that mountain, it makes the journey all worth it. And that's essentially where we're going with Ben and Guy and all these other moving parts here, is that this is the story of Ben trying to prove that he is a good guy. And people not wanting to believe him, and they're having their own reactions to his behavior. They're acting in denial. They're acting in violence because of that denial. And where that story goes is going to be interesting. Again, because part of it depends on whether or not Ben actually wins his matches coming up. Because like if he doesn't win against Guy in Texas, he's out of singles for the rest of the year. And so where's his story going to go from there? Is he going to turn back heel, or is he going to stay face and steer the course with Riley? And we're going to get a feel-good story come the end of the season.
But we know for a fact.
Do we?
Well, okay. Fine. Not for a fact, but let's think about the man who is telling this story. Let's just think about Harloff for a moment. How does his mind work?
His mind works like a combination of Vince McMahon and Dana White. But the thing is, Christian even knows that there's an extent at which you can piss people off intentionally, that they will stop coming back for more. He knows that eventually you have to deliver in a good way to keep the crowd.
What has the crowd been wanting ever since Ben went through the table? They actually are like, no, don't do this. Team Action was the best team of all time. We want our Team Action back. So what's going to happen at Houston? Win or lose, they're both going to stand up there at the end of that table, and they're going to cackle together, and they're going to say, ha! Sucks to suck. Because that's what we want.
But here's another example of when that didn't come to be. The Shield, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, one of the most popular trios in recent memory of the WWE. They did pretty much everything together. Dean was the United States champ, Seth and Roman were the tag champions, and they beat everyone under the sun. They beat legends, and eventually got to a point where you couldn't really do anything with them anymore as a faction. So you know what they did? They broke them up before they got stale. They had Dean and Seth feud for a bit, and Roman went on to do other things. And then eventually they brought them back for a match against one another where the title was on the line. And then once they were all in a certain place, they brought them back together after a few years. I feel like there's still ways to go with Ben and Guy as rivals as opposed to as friends and tag team partners. And I after 6 months, I feel like that's too soon to reunite them. Even after 1 year, I feel like that's too soon to reunite them. I want to see Ben realize his potential as a babyface because much like Janine, she started out as a heel. And then over time, her work ethic won the fans over and she became a face. And in a way, Ben has essentially done the same thing. If you go on the Schmoedown's YouTube channel, they have that radio interview they did in Chicago. And, Ben mentions that Kevin Smets, our good friend Kevin Smets, walked up to him and said, hey, listen, I've modeled a lot of my studying after yours from a sports mindset. And Kevin just happened to take it up to at the nth degree. But Ben is respected. Ben has become beloved. And, I get that people like Team Action because they were the loud, obnoxious heels, that got people talking. But in the minds of
their fans, they were faces. But we all know that they were dirty, rotten pieces of shit, and Dastardly Drew Guy still is.
Exactly, and I feel like Ben is at a point in his career where he's better suited to be the face that people want to root for. And he actually conducts himself in a way that makes you want to root for him sympathetically. Whereas Guy, I wanted to punch him in the mouth when I watched him at the free-for-all because it felt like he was just being nothing but disrespectful to the game and to the players at the desks next to him on stage. Ben, when he says he respects the game, it comes off as genuine. Guy is taking his assholeness up to the nth degree, and it just would feel wrong for me to
doubling
turn
down
Ben back.
on it, and that's what makes him interesting to watch because he's an '80s action movie villain, and we love him for it. Well, okay, all of Guy's fans love him for it. Which, granted, yes, and I'll be honest, I still have yet to fully get into the wrestling side of things because look, and yes, as Robert Adams brought up, yes, Triple H did marry Stephanie McMahon in real life, and they're still married, if I recall correctly.
They're still married. They have kids, and they're running NXT in the best possible ways while Papa Vince is kind of burying the main roster. I don't want to say bury, but he's not managing the main roster properly.
Well, no, you could say he's fucking up. and that's part of why I'm.
But
not...
I don't want to use the word bury because that has a different connotation in wrestling. That has a very serious connotation in terms of wrestling terminology. So
No,
I don't want
Vince
people to think you can.
But you can say Vince is fucking up, and that's fine.
Yes, he's fucking up, but I won't say he's burying anybody because that would imply that he's intentionally trying to throw members of his own roster under the bus. And he's not. He just doesn't know what he's doing anymore because he's a 70-plus-year-old man who does nothing but lift weights. He doesn't sleep. He gets mad when he sneezes because it's the one thing he can't control in life. And, time has just passed him by where his ideas no longer work. And Triple H and Steph have shown that they have minds for the business that work in this day and age. And, as soon as Vince passes away, and I hate to phrase it that way, but
it will happen sooner versus later.
The general consensus is that the WWE's main roster will be in a better place once Vince passes away because it means Triple H might be the one to take it over, and we've seen that he knows how to handle a wrestling show.
And, from everything I've heard, that's about as true as it gets. And, well, then here. So, and I want you to be as honest as you can with me. Is my complete ignorance of WWE, is my complete lack of ignorance why I still sometimes struggle with some of those aspects of the Schmoedown?
I mean, I would assume there are probably some regular wrestling watchers who also felt the way you did, and that just could be their preference. But yeah, there's definitely something about not being in the wrestling loop that prevents some people from understanding what the point was of certain things. Like, I can't tell you how many times I had to explain on the Facebook group yesterday.
Guys, #understanding, make that a thing.
I didn't even realize I mispronounced the word. But, yeah, there were numerous times yesterday on the Facebook group page where I had to explain what a worked shoot was to the people who didn't understand wrestling. And eventually and some people got the gist of it, and some people were like, okay, that still doesn't make me feel any better about what I saw. And then I had to say, that was the point. You weren't supposed to like what you saw. But to get to the emphasis of the question here, there are going to be wrestling things that the Schmoedown will try to incorporate that you may not like, and this was one of them. Now, there could also be some wrestling stuff that they incorporate that you will love very much.
Hell, the Anarchy tournament. It was a very wrestling thing to do. And I had loved it.
Impact Wrestling did that a couple of times over the years. They called it their Joker's Wild tournament, only it wasn't for the titles. Basically, whoever won the tournament got $1 million, I think.
Nice. Now, the cool guy in the chat actually is asking what is a worked shoot. Are you able to give him just a real quick?
So a shoot in wrestling is basically when someone goes off script and just brings reality into the whole situation. A worked shoot is when they bring reality into this fictional setting, and it was part of the script. So you are intentionally, as the script dictates, blurring the lines between reality and fiction on screen. That's what a worked shoot is when you bring reality into fiction, but you do it because the script told you to. Right. Not because you felt like it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've understood this the whole time. When you explained to me that, that there's a possibility that that was how it's supposed to be from the beginning. Okay. Yes. And you guys are right. You're right. And, in Harloff's own words, I was dead wrong about how I came across. Now, to go back to what I said in my fucking tirade to end all tirades, which I have apologized for, and granted, I didn't need to. I chose to because I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I've felt since that incident, because it kind of ruined my week. And no, not the decision, but how I chose to phrase it and how I chose to keep it in the video. Because you wanted something, I could have taken it out before I uploaded it to YouTube, and I don't think anybody would have really noticed outside of you and Case. Is that fair to assume?
And I'm very glad Case told you, no, leave it in, because that kind of controversy is going to get us views in the first place, but also because you're being honest about how you feel in that exact moment. Don't cover up your honesty. We're now having this conversation where we get to hash things out and we get to explain ourselves and to get that better understanding from our audience, and also from Christian if he's watching right now.
Oh, he's not, but it's fine. It's fine. And look, if you guys want to send him a link to this, like once the show is done, I mean, please do. But I don't know if it's gonna make that big of a difference. But and to be fair, this will be a separate video from the from the main episode as well. I'll upload a separate thing for this, and he doesn't have to. If he wants to just say that, that you get it, and that's why you're the favorite, great, cool, awesome. Because, and I will forever continue to support the Schmoedown. I will happily keep being part of the Patreon. I will happily keep doing reaction videos because I love this show. I have loved this show for 3 years now. And if I were to just suddenly turn my back on everything just because of one fucking decision, then I'm not a real fan. But that said, I'm not gonna stand down on my thoughts of I hated this. I hated this decision. And I know that was the intention. I know I'm not supposed to like it. And I'm not going to be like, well, then why the fuck are you pointing in the first place, you fucking idiot? No. Because it's not my story. It's his story. And I can choose to not like, here, for another example. I love Rebels. I do. I love the show Star Wars Rebels. I think it's a wonderful show. But, Space Whales? That's terrible. AP5 singing is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen in my fucking life. But, does that mean that I don't love the show? No. It's one of those moments where I'm just going to have to preface by saying, I didn't like this. I understand if people do. I don't. And my thing is, I just feel like I didn't say it the right way. Even though apparently everyone's saying that I wasn't that terrible, and
Listen, in my eyes, you had one dumb moment out of that whole thing, and that was when you said they need to come out with a written statement explaining the situation.
Yep.
And granted, there might be some grounds to that simply because we don't have a lot of. There might still be some non-wrestling savvy people who don't understand.
And there are some boneheads who choose not to talk about this like we are right now.
But still, I feel like they're telling a story. It's been made clear to us that they're telling a story. The intention was to blur the lines between reality and fiction in this case. So if we already understand what's going on, there's no need for a written statement in that regard. And that's just where I felt like you jumped the shark a little bit.
What? Me do that? No, never. Yeah, and that's where I have to admit I was out of line. I was completely out of line when I said that in complete stupidity. So, and that is what I think I'm really trying to say. I owe Christian and all them a genuine apology for. And to be fair, I'm sure they'll all tell me, Chris, you don't have to apologize for anything. It's like, no, just shut up and let me apologize, because the other reason that it's been bugging me like all week is because I try to preach just being a good person. Try to preach being a decent person. Don't be a dick. And in that moment, what was I? I was.
I'm not going to say you were a dick. I'm going to say you were you were a little confused, but I won't go as far as to say that. What I will say is this: we've been calling the Schmoedown season 6 the Magic season, the Magic season 6, the Magic 6,
and it still is
for a couple months now. The Magic season has now essentially entered the Attitude Era. Gone are the days before the Montreal Screwjob. We've now fully embraced the Attitude Era in this case. And so there's going to be more things that you might not like, but more things that you might also like because they push certain boundaries that weren't pushed before. Like, hell, now that I think about it, Eli McKay, he once pitched an idea to me for a fan league invasion of the Schmoedown, much like how WCW and ECW invaded the WWF after WCW went out of business and the McMahons had to buy the company. That was the end of the Attitude Era. If this is the start of the Attitude Era, who knows? That could come by in like season 8 or 9. 8, 9, 8, 9.
8.
But yeah, we're gonna try new things this season. Like the rumored Game of Thrones exhibition is still supposedly gonna happen at some point. That's the first endeavor into TV for the Schmoedown, should that match take place. I still believe that there's going to be a wrestling trivia Schmoedown at some point, simply because Christian likes wrestling.
Not till like season 10, but yes.
We are aware of wrestling personalities like Jay Washington and Ryan Satin, and hell, even John Roca. He's a gigantic wrestling fan, and there are plenty of YouTube guys out there who are in the who are part of the wrestling scene, like Steven Larson of Going in Raw, of the whole fucking show, Wrestling with Regret. There are a million avenues they could take to build up that division. Hell, TJ Marconi, who's an independent wrestler in the tri-state area on the East Coast, is a member of the Schmoedown fan group. There are plenty of ways they could approach that when they do finally decide to pull that trigger. And cool
maybe
guy.
Maybe I can talk to my local guy, Mitch Paradise, and see if he'd be down for doing something like that. But sorry.
And yeah, cool guy. I did suggest a tables match because that made sense to me. Andrew Guy put Ben Bateman through a table. Usually when that happens on wrestling, it ends with a tables match on the pay-per-view that follows the incident in which someone got put through a table just when they were fighting. So yes, I think that as part of the Houston, Texas main event between Andrew Guy and Ben Bateman, on top of the stipulations that have already been set upon us,
Andrew should get slapped for every question he misses.
That or the loser should go through a table, because that makes sense to me. And yes, I'm talking a bit like Jerry Seinfeld right now. I realize that.
What's the deal with tables? I mean, come on.
But yeah, it makes sense to me. That's a new realm of pushing the boundaries that, in my mind, at least in terms of the canon that's been set, would make sense. Yeah, it makes sense to me for the Schmoedown. Try new things, and that's what we were doing, because that's what the Attitude Era was for, and that's what Magic Season 6 is now for. It's for trying new things, exploring new ways to grow the Schmoedown, and that's part of what this storyline was that we saw on Thursday, or earlier than that. If you are a member of the Patreon for the Schmoedown, you got to see it earlier. But yeah, we're trying new things. This was one of them. It got the desired reaction that Christian wanted. People were pissed. Or if you were a wrestling fan, you were like, yes, I like where this is going. They're trying new things. But yeah, we're in for a very interesting rest of the season.
I was about to say that kind of sounds like your final thoughts as well. Would that be a fair assessment? Or
I don't know what more I could possibly say.
Fair enough. So I'm gonna close out with this before I do, the usual outro and whatnot. No, and I guess everyone is actually right when they say I wasn't necessarily being a dick. But the fact of the matter is that at the very least in that one really stupid moment I was out of line. Because I got it, but I was just so angry by what I, still somewhat consider an invasion of privacy, but I also have to understand, it was agreed upon. It was something that's, supposed to be part of the thing. And I know. I get it. That's fair. It's fair game. If everyone agreed upon it, it's fair game. I should just quit my bitching and move on with my life. But it's just because of my experience in, in being involved in this community as I was. It's just not how I would have done things. And yes, is that my own personal thing that I have to let go of? Yes, it is. And I guess I proved to myself this week that I'm not ready for that. There's still that little piece of old me that doesn't want to go.
You'd rather run your own personal Schmoedown like a martial arts league where people show respect for one another, show respect for the craft. Whereas you put some wrestling guys in charge, we're going to want to try some wrestling stuff. And I get that. It's a difference of opinion. And there are times where I would prefer the martial arts route as opposed to the wrestling route too. I'm a fan of both. So there are times where I feel like trash talk and antics are justified. And there are times where I feel like I'd rather see some respect. I'd rather see some hugging after beating each other senseless. It's a weird dichotomy, but yeah, to each their own. You have your preferences. Others have theirs. And
it's all a matter of how you present your opinion. I didn't do a good job of it. So when I get my ass thrashed on Monday, well, okay, I won't really get my ass thrashed. He'll probably say one or two things about about how awful that one thing I said was, and then that'll be it. We'll be done.
Unless open invitation. Can we come on Collider Live via Skype call and we can hash this out with the rest of the group on Monday and have a constructive conversation like we just had here? Like everyone can share their sides of the story and we can figure this out.
Good luck making that happen, bro. I mean, sure. Even if you guys in the chat all tweeted at Harloff, I don't know if that would happen. I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think there'll be time for that because Monday's going to be a busy enough show as is, with what's going to be the decision moving forward. And it's kind of funny because for as much shit as I gave that moment, I'm actually kind of excited to see what the decision's going to be. Like, how
for
is
Roxy, right? Yeah. Because I was like,
and because,
are you still talking about yourself? I was confused.
And let's be real here. There's not going to be any real punishment because Harloff eats this shit up. If he had it his way, Andrew Guy would have never been punished at all for anything. But that's... And I'm giving him a little too much crap. I'm busting his chops a little bit too much. No, he's been doing a great job with this, and it just... I just feel kind of bummed out that we had to have this... Okay, I'll just put it this way. I feel like this was... There could have been a way to transition us into moments like this a little bit better than just suddenly, bam. Which, granted, it's kind of like diving into cold water. You can't just dip your toe in, otherwise you'll never actually fucking get in. You just have to jump in. But
I'll say one more thing.
Please.
In my eyes, you still come off better in this scenario than Makuga has in a lot of his kerfuffles on air.
Ouch. But kind of. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Nico. I appreciate that. But yes. So, with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. It's Nico, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having this great conversation with me and letting us hash this out like men. I'm giving you a hug across my screen because I appreciate you.
I'm glad we could have this talk as well, because, you need to sometimes be reminded that sometimes you didn't screw up even though you think you did. I busted your chops on air this morning. I will admit to that. I'm sorry for
not to
throwing
say
you
I
under the
did,
bus, although...
and again, not to say I didn't earn it, because I totally fucking did.
But yet, like, the more conversations that are had about stuff like this, the more people will understand. And, the more people that understand, the more people will be okay and accepting with the Schmoedown trying new things like this. And not even just the Schmoedown, but other people and other things trying other things and other people. I took that analogy in an interesting way at the end. But
yeah. Oh my God. So to say, yeah, Robert, you better quote that Can't Feel the Love Tonight. Well done, sir. But yes, guys, thank you for tuning in. And remember, we are now available on podcast feeds. So please subscribe to us on Stitcher, iTunes, wow, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you guys get your favorite podcasts. Make sure you find us. There are links down in the description box below, and there will be links on our Facebook page and on Twitter. As soon as we're done, I'm going to post each individual feed on my Twitter in one giant thread. So just follow along there and help us grow this thing. And who knows? And speaking of this great conversation, you know what I want to do in the future? I want us to sit down with maybe a Roka or a Bibiani or a Harloff and actually get in further into this. And
yes, please. Yes, please.
But that's not going to happen unless you guys help us make that happen. So that said, Nico, where can the good folks find you online?
Hold on, let me make sure there's nobody walking behind me. Okay, I'm safe. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, at Nico Suave Regoli. That's NicoSuaveRegoli. You can find me right here on Dedicated to Art and all the places Chris will say in just a few moments. You can find me over on Multiplex Entertainment. That's the name of the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. The Twitter is at MultiplexYT. The Instagram is Multiplex Entertainment Network. The TeePublic is tpublic.com/user/multiplex. Buy our awesome shirts and check out myself and Zaddy Smith every Wednesday evening at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our geek-style discussion show called Crisis on Earthplex. And finally, Combat Wrestling Trivia is the name of the Facebook group. Combat Wrestling Network is the name of the YouTube channel. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. If you like wrestling, if you like wrestling trivia, come join us and also watch Adonis Nazario and James Berryman III's weekly Raw and SmackDown discussion show called the Raw and SmackDown Breakdown every Wednesday afternoon. Oh, and before I forget, Discord League, I'm making my debut soon. Stay tuned for that YouTube channel to watch me make my debut. And also Rolling Crits. It's a new show coming out on Twitch very soon. Don't know if we're going to stream tomorrow, but we are doing a test run to make sure everything goes smoothly for when we officially make our debut. But yeah, we're doing a tabletop show with a bunch of my friends from down here in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. And we're going to have a good time. Again, the name of the show is Rolling Crits. Coming soon.
All right, awesome. And you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, and Letterboxd at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this fair channel on Twitter and Instagram at D28 Channel. Please like our Facebook page. And yeah, like I said, launch the podcast feed. It's exciting. We got a bright new future ahead of us. And guys, you know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!